So I'm on Stewart Island, the lowest part of New Zealand. It's off the southern coast, off Bluff, and the Maori name for the Stewart Island is Raikora, Raikora, something like that. Not too good on the Maori language, but anyway, those who've been following me and been listening to all the mythological stories I've been breaking down, once again you can break this Maori story down, which correlates with all the other mythological stories around the world, even the Jesus story, because Kora is basically the sun, Ra, and Kia ora, it's just spelt slightly differently, but it's Kia ora, it's hello, welcome. It's the sun welcoming you, or welcome to a new day, like in the creation story. It's the welcoming of the sun. So a lot of people interpret that as just the day, the sun coming up each day is a new day. But no, it's deeper than that. It's about creation, man's creation, the world's creation. And it's basically a spiritual story about man's creation story, about going through his rebirth and waking up on the first day of his new awakening, his rebirth. It's after his rebirth that happened that night. And it also represents the earthly story, which is the beginning of spring. It's when the sun comes up. Okay? And it's also goes deeper, like in the Amente, going down to Amente or Hades, when the southern field comes out of being down in the what's the other word? Can't think of it at the moment. The dark place, going into the dark place. Well, it's come out of Hades, come out of Amente, and it's opening up, and it's the dawn of the southern field spring. It's all about the southern hemisphere, okay? Well, the Maori story concerning Stewart Island is just like the Jesus story. Like if you've been following me, you've seen how I've drawn the Milky Way, and how the Milky Way moves across the earth 24/7, and the southern hemisphere it spirals out of the south, and in the northern hemisphere it spirals out of the north. And at a certain time, around September the spring, there's a time when they'll swing around and marry with each other, meet up in straight lines. Okay, that's the holiest of holy stories. It's right through religion, but no one understands it. I'm the only guy who can interpret it. So the Maori story has it. You look at New Zealand on the map, you see the North Island, the South Island and Stewart Island. And the whole three are incorporated into their mythological story. Raikora being the stone or rock or something in the story. It's representing the sun. Because way back then they knew the sun came out of the southern hemisphere, came out of the south. In the north it comes out of the north, in the south it comes out of the south. But it's all about the Milky Way, you see. And the long South Island represents the canoe in the Maori mythological story. And what's the canoe? The canoe is the Milky Way. The Egyptian story has the solar sun and the canoe that moves, or ship, boat, solar boat that moves across the sky. Well, that's the sun is in the Milky Way, right? And they know that the Maori mythological story has the sun in the south, down that end. And then you go up to the North Island, and what's that representing in the Maori myth? That's the fish that Maui pulled up out of the ocean. The fish, it's sort of got a bit of a curve to it, and it's representing like the fish as in Pisces. Look at the Pisces symbol, the fish, the curved fish. Well, that's representing the fish, and what does that represent? That represents the moon in Pisces, the full moon in Pisces. How it's connected is because the sun in the Milky Way swings over the moon. There's only 2 times the moon is caught in the Milky Way. It's new moon and full moon. So the North Island is representing the moon in Pisces. The whole Jesus, the whole religious story, just told differently to all the other mythological stories around the world. So there you have it. So Maui pulled up the North Island out of the ocean, which is all about water and sea, because the moon moves the water, namely the fluid in the human brain, to create human enlightenment and spiritual awakening, where the claustrum are part ways. That's man's one-off losing his feminine virginity. It's in the brain. The claustrum part, they rip apart, and as the blood comes from there and mixes with your blood. That's the red wine in the churches. Drink my blood. Drink my blood, but when he talks about eat my flesh, eat of it, he's referring to the bread, which is the magnetic shape flux of the earth, because the earth is basically one big brain, metaphysically. It's shaped like a brain. The human brain has the tropical gap as the parts, the gap between the 2 hemispheres. Oh, there you go. So the Maori mythological story is just like all the other stories. So where did they get it from? It's unbelievable. Then I was just in the got a brand new museum down here, and there's a not starfish, kingfish? No, what do you call them? The fish that's a spiral tail. Oh, flip. Can't think of the word now. No, well anyway, everything in creation everything on earth, all the animals represent something to do with creation. And that fish, that sea creature, represents the Milky Way, the southern hemisphere, or could be the north, because of the spiraling of the tail. Is the spiral the sun and everything comes out of, the central vortex. Remember, the northern hemisphere is the main central vortex, and all around the south is mirrored from there. So this is why we get the sun coming out of the south as opposed to them getting out of the centre north. So seahorse. The seahorse. See, the tail represents the spiral. It comes out of there, comes around, and the guts, the stomach of the seahorse, represents the big bulge in the Milky Way, which is the back of the sun. Okay? Sagittarius A, it's the back of the sun. That bulge is the back of the sun. And its head is where it goes all the way up to Orion's belt. That's the tropical, the southern side is Capricorn. This is where the Milky Way finishes. It'll follow Orion's belt across the sky in that season. Check it out yourself. The same thing with the north, it's just the mirrored reflection. But what else can I say about that Maori mythological story? I mean, that's pretty amazing, really, when you think about it. They knew way back then, they all knew the same story. How did they know? Who wrote it down? How do we know today? How do they get to interpret that? Okay, so the sun, the Milky Way, and the Milky Way swings over the full moon in Pisces, and the whole Maui story. Then you've got the other part of the Maori story about Maui, and now it's connected. You've got Maui and Hawaii, and the Maori mythological story is connected to Hawaii, just spelled slightly different. And there's the story of Hawaii to Hawaii being a longer journey than Hawaii to Aotearoa, which is the long white cloud, which is New Zealand. So they got that right too, because they're talking about the physical world, their physical journey from Hawaii to Aotearoa, as in a physical lifespan. It's just a blink of an eye in the overall scheme of things, because we never die. It's just our carcass that does. We all reincarnate until you get out of the matrix. Then you have choices. But then they talk about the Hawaii to a Hawaii journey, which is far longer. You think, what the hell? What are they talking about? Well, that's representing the two Milky Ways that come and meet at the respective tropical sides, Capricorn and Cancer. That whole divine season is about the two Milky Ways that line up. That's the Hawaii to Hawaii, talking about the two Milky Ways. That journey, because that at that point of an alignment is the point of spiritual rebirth, man's awakening into the godlike realm where he will live forever. He becomes immortal. It's the whole story behind all the mythological stories and religion that no man on earth understands until they understand what I'm telling them. I seem to be the only one who can explain it all. I'm not saying that people understand what I'm saying, but I'm trying to explain it. So there you go. So you look at New Zealand on the map. Long, slim South Island representing the Milky Way, and the sun at the end. The stone, or that in religious or legendary mythological stories, is representing man's pineal gland as a stone, the rock coming out of the waters, the Benben stone. What happens during a man's enlightenment is this pineal gland comes out of the water. The moon moves the fluid, releases the fluid from around his pineal gland. That's the fluid that mixes with the blood and rushes between the claustrum, the two narrow passageways. And that takes you into the Jesus story. Narrow passageway. Old fat man Santa in his red blood trying to squeeze down the chimney. Okay, there you go. And then you look at the Maori Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. Why they call it the white cloud? Because they're associating that with the white part of the Milky Way, where the sun is projected out the backside. You see a bit of white in the celestial, astrophotography, where the back of the sun is. That's Sagittarius A. And we know the sun is pure white light. Despite what they tell you, they lie so much to us. You don't learn any of this at school. So the white's the electrical. Some people say it's the magnetic, but in this case it has to be the electrical, because the sun's electrical, with both actually electrical and magnetic. It's electromagnetic, which would leave the moon as the magnetic being black. And we know graphite is black, so it must be, that's checkerboard in Freemasonry, black and white checkerboard. So we've got the light as the sun and the black representing the magnetic, and together they create enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment, because the magnetic comes off the earth and comes through the human body, and our head, our brain, it's not quite right, because the brain is affected by the moon, which is magnetic. I can't explain that right at the minute, but it's an alignment. It's an alignment between the sun and the moon, because they're both in the Milky Way at that time. So it's like coming in from both ends of the Milky Way, as it would come in both ends of the human body. It comes up through the feet, and something comes down through the skull, from above. That is the story. Bite thy heel, wound thy head. Okay? It's like lightning, actually. Bang, bingo. Spiritual enlightenment. That's what it's all about. But anyway, read the Maori mythological stories about Ra'ikau. If I say that right. Kiora, Ra'ikora. And they say, the locals here, they say, oh, you don't separate them like that, separate Ra off. But no, you do. It's way deeper than what they've been told. They don't understand. So it's all to do with Ra and Kiora. Welcome to the new day, the new life. You're your rebirth, the whole rebirth story. The Maoris knew about it way back then, just like all the other old cultures do. But man of today, totally ignorant of it. Totally ignorant of it. I could break down all the Maori mythological stories. One day, if I have time, I'll put in a little journal. Cheers for watching and listening.